Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to make a very short video about the case of a Cypriot EU citizen who is facing deportation from the UK. Now, as most viewers are aware, I take quite a hard line on immigration. I am certainly not in favour of illegal immigration or European societies, including the UK, being overwhelmed by waves of migrants from developing countries who will create all kinds of problems and pressures, like pressures on the healthcare service and the social benefits system. So basically, I am not pro-immigration, especially mass immigration by any means. But when I read about this case, and I read about this in The Guardian, which is really a very left-wing UK newspaper, I found it a little bit disturbing, and I certainly don't support the actions of the British Authority in this case. So this guy is a 39-year-old Greek Cypriot citizen. He's an EU citizen from Cyprus, and his name, which I am going to butcher the pronunciation of, is Costa Koushiappis. Okay, from now on I'll just call him Costa. So this guy's been living in the UK pre-pandemic, and he's been living there in Scotland actually for the last 3 years. And he entered the UK legally, obviously, on his EU passport. And he's applied to the British Home Office for pre-settled status. He wants to remain there, after the UK left the EU. His initial application was rejected, but he's now appealing it, and the Home Office have told him it's going to take 24 months. They've given him all of the codes and everything that he needs to remain legally in the UK, to work there, to rent an apartment, etc., while his application is fully processed. And this guy Costa is employed in the UK. He works in a motorcycle shop, and his boss is very, very supportive of his efforts to remain, describes him as a star employee, very, very hardworking and productive, and basically the kind of person that you would want to have working for your company. He also has an apartment in the UK, he has a car in the UK, he has roots there, and fundamentally, to my mind, he's employed there, he pays taxes, he's a productive member of society, and he's also not old. He's only 39, so he has many, many years ahead of him. And undoubtedly, he speaks English as well. He's adapted to the UK. Obviously, English is not his native language, it will be Greek, but he'll be able to speak English, and he can integrate well enough into society. He comes from a European country. Admittedly, the culture is not identical to the UK, just like, my culture coming from the UK is not identical to Portuguese culture, but I don't think it's such a big difference that it makes it difficult to function in society. People from other European countries can usually fit in pretty well in almost any other European country. At least that's my opinion. Basically, I feel that Europeans from across the European continent, regardless of their nationality, have far less problem integrating into other European societies, basically because we share a kind of a shared culture which has been built up by the presence of Christianity in our societies for so many millennia. And apart from that, things like the respect for the rule of law, or just basic rules of social courtesy, which are pretty consistent across much of the European continent, albeit that there are cultural differences. I think it's quite easy for Europeans to integrate into other societies in Europe. That's my opinion anyway. So from my point of view, this guy Costa is an example of the kind of immigrant that the UK wants. And I think that if we are going to be pushing him away, then that's not what we ought to be doing. So anyway, despite the fact that this guy has a pending application with the Home Office, and he has the legal codes from the Home Office to work and stuff like that, when he went on a brief vacation to Holland for a few days, upon his return to Edinburgh Airport in Scotland, he was detained for 6 hours by Border Force, which is like the immigration security apparatus that operates at the frontiers in the UK, and he was detained for 6 hours and questioned basically told that he had no cause to be in the UK and that he had 3 days to basically organise his affairs, and then he was going to be deported back to Amsterdam, where he flew in from. Now, this guy's entire life is in the UK. He has a home there, he has a car there, he has a job there. And to give him only 3 days to leave, or actually to ask him to leave at all, when he has a current process underway with the Home Office, which is admittedly very backlogged, but that's not his responsibility. It strikes me as fundamentally unreasonable on the part of Border Force. He was actually told to report today, which is Friday the 1st of November at 7 a.m. in the morning to Edinburgh Airport for his deportation flight. I don't know what's actually going to happen with that. I can only hope that, like some other cases of EU citizens in the UK who have faced, in what in my opinion is similar levels of mistreatment, that he is not forced to leave the country. Just to give my perspective on this briefly, I really think that the UK needs to, have a little bit of a reality check when it comes to immigration and think about what kind of migrants do we want and what kind of migrants do we not. What kind of migrants are productive in our society and can integrate and contribute, and which ones are not. It strikes me as extremely ludicrous that this guy Costa has been basically victimised in this way. I view it as a victimisation. And a productive person who is an EU citizen from another developed country is being asked to leave, and Border Force are spending their time and resources on prosecuting his case. Meanwhile, there are hundreds of thousands of asylum seekers in the UK which basically had their status legitimised by the previous Conservative government. There was an immense backlog of asylum cases, and then by magic all of these people were just basically given leave to remain in the UK, and it continues. There are boats delivering hundreds of illegal migrants into the UK on a daily basis. How many of those people are ever sent back? Those people, generally speaking, are a drain on the system from the moment they step off the boat. They often can't speak English, they can't work, they live in hotels at the expense of the state, and they're given social benefits, apart from the cornucopia of other problems that they may cause in society. In contrast to that, we have a case like Costa, who is definitely a productive member of society, somebody who we want, especially in an area of the country like Scotland, which needs more migrants, more good and productive migrants anyway, and yet he's facing deportation. It just makes absolutely zero sense to me. It is an infuriating situation, and I really despise this kind of mistreatment of EU nationals, or indeed nationals from any developed country who are trying to lead a productive life in the UK and are working and are contributing to society and are coming up against these kind of very unreasonable bureaucratic barriers. In the meantime, all of the people who are illegal, who don't bother to integrate, who don't bother to learn the language and cause a variety of social problems, they're being welcomed in, and nothing really much is being done to repel them or to send them back or anything like that. The message from the government is we need to understand them and help them out. I think the country has lost its mind. Obviously, the UK is not alone in losing its mind. But in my opinion, when people look at cases like this and they look at the dichotomy and the treatment between the case of someone like Costa, who is an EU migrant who's contributing to society, and a bunch of illegal migrants who are sucking resources out of the social security system, I know which one I want to be in the country. My question is, why is the policy of the government and the border force, etc., why is it so wrong-headed? Why are we making these kind of ludicrous choices and using resources to focus on all the wrong things, when it's quite evident what we should be focusing on if we really want to protect the country from the wrong kind of migration? Alright, well, I hope people found this video informative and entertaining. Please let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this case or on migration generally into the UK, and I will see you soon in the next video.